end with our country. A lot of people were calling me today that my sureties in a matter that is in court are in trouble. Government has ordered, the court has ordered that they pay 100,000 kwacha, 50,000 each. This is a case for many people. Remember, we always talk about these offenses, how bogus they are, because this is a case of one of the speech offenses. I was in London when there was a development in Zambia on Independence Day of October 2023. I was in London for a conference, and when I arrived, I went to the party secretariat because people claimed that the party secretariat was taken over. This was a few days after Mal Sampa had staged that conference and alleged that he had taken over the party secretariat. So I went to the party secretariat and I was live, and I issued a comprehensive statement where I called on the nation and members of the PF to protest countrywide. I said, from the information that was available, this was a state-engineered process. The state, and I accused President Hakainde Hichilema of staging a coup by taking over the Patriotic Front. So my comments for a protest and nationwide shutdown, which is very popular in South Africa, where I served for 4 years. The police, and State House immediately issued statement that I was alarming the nation, and before long I was arrested, locked up, and that is a case that is before court. Anyway, we shall overcome all these issues. Last week, for those that are keen listeners to the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, a worldwide broadcast on Africa, they featured Zambia and its constitutional making process. They condemned the process, that this will lead to President Hakainde Hichilema extending his term beyond the current term, and that he was pushing an unconstitutional bill. It had failed in the courts of law. The courts had directed that the process was illegal. He had set up a technical committee without supporting legal framework. And even when that process was completed and they tabled the report, President Hakainde Hichilema ignored that process, because the draft constitution and the subsequent report were supposed to be now gazetted for feedback, for, if the summary was correct, if the input were correct. So you gazette it for 30 days. President Hakainde Hichilema ignored that entire process and instead relieved Bill 7, an unconstitutional process. So BBC was covering this matter, and they cited a Zambian as an analyst who then gave extensive background to this case and provided insightful analysis to the state of our country, President Hakainde Hichilema's role in all this, and the Bill 7 itself. So many people were asking, who's Aaron Ngambi? Who is this Aaron Ngambi that was given extensive coverage by the BBC? Well, for you and me, those that read, you will find that Sishua writes on this matter. Tandi Weketi Singoma. But there's also Aaron Ngambi. He publishes in the Mail and Guardian, and he publishes, most of his articles are done internationally. He's based here in the United States, in Texas. I have the horse here, so let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Why am I speaking on his behalf? Aaron, welcome to today's program.
Ambassador, thank you for having me. I know that you've invited me before, and we never had a chance to sit down and have a discussion, but I'm glad to be here, and good evening to your viewers in Zambia.
Aaron, I enjoy your write-ups. They are deep, they are well-researched, and they provide a fresh perspective to the noise that usually happens. So I enjoy your write-up, I should immediately confess. We will start briefly by let's know, who is Aaron Ngambi? Why are you in the United States? Just tell us briefly, did you grow up in Zambia? When did you come to the US? And, just give us those insights.
All right. So Aaron Ngambi is a son of Mr. Ngambi. My father is late. He passed on in April of 2011. but my mother is very much alive. I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, and also I was born in Chingola on the Copper Belt in the late 80s, or should I say mid 80s. And my father was working for ZCCM at the time. So my father was a miner and ambassador, if you recall, during that time, ZCCM used to move people a lot. You know, they'll transfer you from one town to another town. So when I was only about 2 years old, my father moved from, and the family moved from Chingola to Luansha. So my early formidable years for preschool and primary school, I studied in Luansha. So I went to preschool at the time called 4th Street Nursery School. It's still, I think it's still there in Luansha. And then I started my grade 1 at River Cross Primary School. So we were in Luansha up until I was in grade 6, probably about 10 years old. Again, my father was given some promotion and we moved from Luansha to Kalulushi. So I arrived in Kalulushi in grade 6 at Chavuma Primary School. I wrote my grade 7 from Chavuma Primary School and then went to Kalulushi Secondary School where I completed my grade 12. So I claim that I'm from Kalulushi because everything I know and growing up, Kalulushi has been a huge part of my life. Now, I also grew up with people that are very notable in our country. Ephraim, son of Africa, was at Kalushi Secondary School. I think Costa from Diamond TV was, I think, at Kalushi Secondary School, I think grade 8 and then grade 9, he went to Mukua Boys Secondary School. And the likes of even musicians such as K Figos from Kalushi, in fact, we're at the same grade, just different classes. Also, Christopher Katongo, who was the captain for the national soccer team when we won in 2012, is also someone that lived in Kalushi and played for Kalushi Modern Stars. So basically, that is home for me, Kalulushi. And in 2011, just before Mr. Sata won the elections, I was fortunate enough to have a scholarship. I left Kalulushi and went to Hawaii to study political science. So I tell people that the only thing I know is politics. In fact, if my father was here today, he will tell you that the only things that me and him talked about a lot was politics, football, and religion to some extent. My father was a religious man. He attended the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So growing up, that is kind of my background, and these are some of the things that interested me. But I've always loved politics. I did well in social studies growing up. And in fact, even as early as 1996, I followed the administration of President Chiluba very keenly. I would be glued to the television 19 hours just to listen to the menus because I saw President Chiluba as someone who was very impressive in terms of being an orator. He spoke very well. But at the same time, I was more fascinated by the opposition leader, Dean Muomba. And that's something that we can talk about. But so growing up, I've been interested in politics and I went to study politics, and that is what I do now. I'm a geopolitical analyst. I focus on global politics and also issues that are happening at home. I write about that. I do interviews. I feature it on different programs.
Thank you very much, Aaron, and thank you for that comprehensive but brief analysis. We will be going to elections next year, 2026, and you have been writing keenly in the Must, Mail and Guardian, and other online publications. Do take, is it News Diggers or the Must? You correct me, but locally you do write for a tabloid regularly. But I have seen your analysis in the Mail and Guardian. So you are well versed to give us this perspective. What is the state of the nation? Because you saw the state of the nation on the Patriotic Front up to 2021. And you have keenly followed this government in the last 4 years. Give us your perspective about the state of the nation. To our dear viewers and listeners, please share this broadcast. Share. There'll be a time when you'll be joining us to ask Aaron Ngambi about our country. We are discussing Bill 7, but generally the state of the nation, and there'll be an opportunity for you to participate. So share the broadcast and, like it and make comments. They help us even in my formulation of questions to my guests. Thank you. Aaron, pick it up. What's the state of the nation?
All right, yeah, so just a slight correction there. Yes, I have been writing for the mass newspaper since, I think, 2020. And, in 2021, I'm one of the people that opposed the Patriotic Front. I'm not a member of the Patriotic Front. I'm not a member of the UPND as a political party. But I try to look at what is happening in the country at the time and agree with what I can agree on and disagree with what I disagree on. And so in 2020, I started writing for the mass newspaper, and I think my articles were very, for lack of a better term, they're very cruel towards President Lungu and his administration. And I have to qualify this because right after that, in 2023, I had a good chat with President Lungu on his birthday, and we talked about all the things that I was writing, and some of the things that I heard from him firsthand was interesting. So fast forward, I supported what was perceived as change in 2021. I thought that the Patriotic Front at the time was leading the country in a different direction. But I have to also say that some of the things that we learned of, some of the things that we supported, was also propaganda on the side of the United Party for National Development. So some of us fell into that. But objectively, I really felt that the country was going on the wrong trajectory, especially with what was happening with the cadres and the things like that. Now, fast forward, we ushered in the UPND in 2021, and I kept writing for the mass newspaper in Zambia. And within, you will be glad to hear this, Ambassador, that within 3 months of President Hakainde taking over office, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was 3 months. It took about 3 months to appoint cabinet, 2 to 3 months. And the first appointment he made was the Minister of Finance, Stumbeko Msokotwane. And I was the first person to appear on Diamond TV. I'm sure they have the archives that can show that, to say that President Hakainde's choice for the Minister of Finance was misplaced. At that time, I believed that Stumbeko Msokotwane was not the person that would bring the economy to where the Zambian people needed it to be. The economy that does not only look good on the books or on paper, but that actually has a trickle-down effect to the people, changing people's lives. I honestly felt that that appointment was not correct. And I actually spoke against it on Diamond TV. And, fast forward, I can tell you that I think I've been vindicated. I think that if you look back 4 years since the United Party...
Aaron, two things strike me. Before you come to the appointment of Honorable Msokotwane, who I'll give some remarks, because I was the first one also to criticize his appointment. No, I wasn't the first one because I was still serving in diplomatic service. So you probably were the first one. But as soon as I came back in December, I came and criticized that. But there's something that you have stated, that your criticism was strong. It wasn't hostile. It was strong against President Edgar Lungu and against his rule. You criticized the governance. You criticized what you perceived was the corruption. How did you speak to him? How did you allow you to speak to him back again after he left office? Because that must be interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting story to tell. In fact, I was very fortunate. In November 2023, I had the opportunity to have an appointment with the former president, President Lungu. And he was very busy at the time. Remember, this was the time when the issue of Mao Sampo was going on, and President Lungu trying to come back into politics, active politics, and things like that. So we met at a certain location, and it was about 2 hours. This was on his birthday, and I found even my member of party Mlenga Kampala at the house that brought a cake for him, and we sang happy birthday for him. And I sat down about 30 minutes into the session. Everybody was saying bye, and I thought, oh, excellent that you gave me a chance to view you and happy birthday. So he saw everyone and we need. So I ended up talking to President Lungu from that almost 20 to 23 hours until the morning. And I was actually catching the flight back to the United States 9 in the morning. So our conversation was very interesting. I'm sure you know that I wrote a lot of things about your leadership, sort of things, administration, in the paper tabloid. And he said, he looked at me and he said, yes, I'm aware of that. And he said, but we have to put that now. We have a duty to say, things are not going well, what we can of the country now. And so I was astonished by it. I was expecting to reprimand me, or probably take it very personal and say, well, I didn't appreciate what you were doing and blah, blah, blah. But none of that happened. He just basically said, I agree that there was huge disagreements between you and me and the way things were doing in the Patriotic Front, but that is water under the bridge. That is behind us. I think I have a duty now to look at the country. And he was right up to that point, because not only did I say that Tumbeko Msekotwane was not going to deliver the kind of economy that benefits all the Zambians when he was appointed, but 6 months, 9 months into the administration of President Hakainde Hichilema, again, I'd become one of the critics of this administration. I thought there were so many things that were going wrong. When you talk about the mining sector, when you talk about some of the decisions that the executive and the president was making. So at that point, when I met him, of course, he had read about some of the things that I've been writing about the current administration. So I think that he looked at me and thought, well, this young man, he at least tries to tell the truth according to what he thinks. At least he tries to be objective. And I think that was the basis of our common ground.
Yeah, my criticism with Aaron, with the appointment by President Hakainde Hichilema of Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Msekotwane stems from history. There was Ngandu Magande in 2008 as our Minister of Finance, and he was hitting international headlines, and he didn't become a good friend of the IMF because he decided to implement windfall tax. This was a tax law that would require the mines to share in profits when the copper prices hit the roof. Remember, we saw the mines when the price was $2,000, $3,000. Now the price of copper was settling around $7,000, $8,000. These were super profit. So Ngandu Magande said there was no way. These are our national resources. The agreements that we have with you are not fair. You don't pay environmental damage. You don't meet the cost of running townships that you have abdicated to government. You don't run any of this infrastructure. You come in, you leave us with big holes. So you have to share in these super profits. So there was a lot of resistance, but Magande started the debate in 2007. By 2008, he implemented it. And that year alone, for the first time in almost 15 years, we got $600 million from the mines. Then in August, you remember that President Levi Mwanawasa died, and Magande jostled for the position, was among those that were to stand and challenge the acting president, who was Rupiah Banda at the time. There was whispers of Maureen Mwanawasa to stand, but eventually Magande challenged Rupiah Banda. Rupiah Banda eventually emerged as president, and one of the biggest casualty was Ngambi Magande, who had challenged his leadership. Remember, he was a minister of finance. So he brought Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, who was at cabinet, I think secretary to treasury, was at Bank of Zambia, and now at the time was at State House as special assistant for economic affairs. So he brought him as minister of finance. The qualifications looked perfect. This is a man that was properly suited and well experienced. But to all our disappointment, the first thing he did was to cripple that windfall tax that had brought in $600 million. You remember, government had so much money. The debt was down. The debt was only at $500 million because Ngambi Magande had completed the process started by Dr. Frederick Chiluba of that Jubilee debt. The $7 billion was written off. There was only $500 million sitting on the books. So this man comes, Msokotwane. He abolishes an income generating stream in the mine, $600 million. And he says, no, the mines need this money to reinvest. Of course, they didn't reinvest. Then he goes on a borrowing spree from $500,000 that the country, $500 million, that the country had. He balloons the debt within 3 years to $3.8 million by the time he's leaving, the MMD are leaving office in 2011. Some of the loans that he started includes Mongu Kalabo Road, Mbala Mpulungu Road. He had started other loans that he had accumulated from China. Many people forget that history. But for me, for those two issues, the way he ballooned the debt to $3.8 billion and the way he struck down windfall tax, I thought he was not suitable. And true to his nature, when he became Minister of Finance in 2021, what suffered immediately was similar to the windfall tax. Because Aaron, you are the analyst here, you come and tell us. But the PF in 2019 introduced a non-deductible tax, mineral royalty tax, and it earned them $1 billion in 2020. Another $1 billion in 2021, going into 2022. Situmbeko abolished that. Again, a revenue stream earning you up to $1 billion. He abolished that. Gave them incentives. And the mining sector is not even our largest contributor to our GDP, despite it being the major exporter in our country. So for those two reasons, I objected to Stumbeko Msokotwane's appointment as Minister of Finance. I've always said he looks like he works for the mine houses. He looks like a candidate for mine houses, not for our country. I don't know what your reasons were.
Yeah, so I have to say two things. Number one, I agree with you on the issue of windfall taxes. That was also part of the reason why I thought that Stumbeko Msokotwane would not deliver an economy that is going to be a trickle-down economy, where the Zambian people can wake up and say, things are so much better than 4 or 5 years ago. I doubted that very much. Now, the other reason was because I know his history, and of course, I know that, and the argument that some of the people who supported the UPND were giving is that, well, he worked under Ngambi Magande, he was an expert in the Ministry of Finance, so he's suited to do this. But I looked at him as and his performance. The thing that I objected to was the issue of going to the so-called IMF and trying to use an IMF program to get out of debt and to work our economy. Nowhere has the IMF program worked. In fact, Zambians today can look back and say, they've been trying to do this IMF program since 2021. Where are we? It's the Zambians who can make that judgment. Now, I know that the UPND kept saying, oh, the IMF of the 1990s is different from the IMF of today. We have a homegrown program, that the IMF will support. I mean, all of this was nothing but justification. 4 years now, going into 5 years next year, can the UPND tell the Zambian people with a straight face that the IMF program has changed the lives of the Zambian people? That's a question we pose to them. Now, if I'm being honest also with you, Ambassador, and our listeners today, I have to tell you that coincidentally, I had a visit with the late Ngambi in his home. I spent almost 2 hours at his house right after the UPND won the elections. We had a great conversation. And so when I walked out of that meeting with the late Ngambi, I knew the specific questions I had asked. We even discussed not only the policies of the MMD when he worked with President Mwanawasa, but we even discussed individuals. And so I knew very well after walking out of that meeting with the late Ngambi that I think the decision to appoint the current Minister of Finance, I don't think I was able to support that. But also, I have to say this, that when President Hakainde won the elections in August of 2021, my conclusion then, and even looking back now in retrospect, is that I don't think the president had assembled a team in advance. I don't think he was prepared. I don't even think he was ready to produce the cabinet that he has today. So, and you find this because even over these 4 years, there are certain ministers today who occupy office as ministers that if I was president, I would have let them go. I would have fired them by now. And the excuse that, oh, but these ministers are not performing. The president, is okay, but the president is the appointing authority. I don't think that he was prepared when he won the elections to put up a team, a formidable team that was able to deliver the economy that he had promised. Remember, he told the BBC right after the election that just wait and see the central bank governor that we're going to give you. Just wait and see the kind of appointments I'm going to make. And he brings back Danny Kaliaria. He brings back some people that, in fact, he thought were doing a bad job under the PF. So that was my opposition to that appointment. But the point I was trying to drive home is that I have tried over, since the PF days, since the times of the Patriotic Front in government as an administration, and now I have tried to walk the line that I think I can make an objective analysis. I can draw my conclusion. I can share my opinion and be able to go to bed at night, knowing that this is the right thing according to the facts that I have. This is the right conclusions that I've reached. The problem, Ambassador, that we have in our country today, and it's on both sides, in the opposition, and even in the ruling party, the problem we have is intellectual dishonesty. There are so many people, and it's unbelievable. There are so many people that cannot stand for anything. They cannot even say when something is wrong.
Aaron, you've raised a very important issue, intellectual honesty. When I argue with my colleagues from the UPND on my socials, I always ask for some level of honesty. I said, look, if you condemned violence against UPND in PF, why are you allowing violence now? If President Hakainde Hichilema is involved in corruption, why are you not standing up to condemn that corruption? If President Hakainde Hichilema is involved in tribalism, you condemned tribalism under the PF, why are you tolerating it now? How come it is okay for the wrong things that were done by the PF to prevail, but the wrongs that are being done by President Hakainde Hichilema cannot prevail because you are saying, besides, I don't understand, even very educated people, to hold that posture. I thought facts and truth are immutable. A wrong remains a wrong, whether it has been done by Edgar Lungu or by Hakainde Hichilema. A wrong must be called out. And I'm glad that you are one of the few people, you, Sishua, and a few others, that have stood very steadfast. You condemned the wrong under President Edgar Lungu, and you have not shied away from condemning the wrongs that have occurred in this government. Was that difficult for you?
Ambassador, what I wanted to say as I was trying to interrupt you is that the problem is that if you're going to rely on the so called educated people, you're going to be disappointed. You die a very sad man. You know, there's a good friend of mine and a sort of a mentor to me who is an opposition figure, respected opposition figure in Uganda. He's in prison now, Dr. Kiza Besigye. Dr. Kiza Besigye said something to me that was very profound about the so called elite, the so called educated, the so called intellectuals. He said the problem is that these are the worst in our society because they have a lifestyle to sustain. That is the problem. And let me give you an example here. You know, when the Israeli president arrived in Zambia and he was welcomed and given this dinner gala or whatever the banquet, the state banquet, and you know, he was showered with all of these you know, flowers and lovely, you know, things. And the president even said to something to the effect that, you know, you're welcome here, not to what others are saying. Something to that effect. I'm just paraphrasing. When I looked at the reaction of some of the so-called educated, some of the so-called intellectuals at that, it was very disappointing. I'll tell you for two reasons. Number one, since the war has been going on in Gaza over 2 years, and you look at over 60,000, if not 70,000 people, women and mostly children killed in Gaza, the Zambian government, through the Foreign Affairs Ministry, we abstained from a humanitarian pause in the United Nations General Assembly. That I could not even keep quiet myself. I had to write about that. It was wrong. It was unjustified. It doesn't matter who is involved in that war. But to actually block humanitarian aid to Gaza, to go to the aid of these people who have been killed, was inhuman. It was inexcusable. And then to go ahead and open the Israeli embassy in Zambia at the height of the so called genocide. The whole world says this is a genocide going on, but yet we go ahead and do that. I think it was misplaced. And then, thirdly, when I saw the Israeli president come into the country, I wrote an article about that, and I was very critical of the timing of this visit. And it was even published in Iran on Press TV. And then I saw some of the so called intellectuals, and one of them in particular, whom I may not mention, who was very close to President Lungu, ECL. By the way, before ECL died, he spoke against what was happening in Gaza. He wrote about that and spoke in, you know, he actually was sympathetic towards the Palestinian people in that write up. But one of the so called intellectuals who was very close to President Lungu all of a sudden wrote this article and speaking all sorts of praises about Israel at a time such as this and what is going on, what was going on in Gaza. If for me, I looked at that, I did not even finish reading that article. I looked at that as intellectual dishonesty because the facts do not support that. So we have a problem when it comes to that. Now, I'm not saying that I am perfect and everything I write is very factual and it's awesome. You know, I'm this person that's putting myself on a pedestal. No. But what I'm saying is that there should be a bare minimum when it comes to honesty in our conversations with our facts, and especially when it comes to do with things pertaining to our country. Now, even yourself, Ambassador, I do know that a lot of people think you're a culprit of propaganda and that you always said that favors the people. There's enough room for all of us to sit down and take stock and look at ourselves and how we about the issues pertaining to our country. Yes, it is wrong. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it. That is what Malcolm X once said. Now, I also want to give another example, quick example here, Ambassador, before we come in. During the Patriotic Front, when the police, unfortunately, you know, opened fire on the crowd and Sama died on that fateful day, I could not keep quiet. I wrote about that in the mass newspaper and I condemned the police actions. Today we are told we've heard rumors that there are people who have died at the hands of the police in Mufue, over the gold rush or things like that. But I don't see any reasonable, well-meaning people say anything about that. It is very heartbreaking and it is disappointing.
Yeah, we are discussing the state of the country, and I'm being helped by Aaron Ngambi, a geopolitical analyst based here in the United States, in Texas. He's in Dallas. He appeared on BBC just last week, and he gave a good perspective. And BBC gave him a lot of time if you watched that debate. And we are discussing the constitutional making process, but first of all, we've been discussing the state of the nation. What has been your disappointment since you supported the UPND? And President Hakainde Hichilema appeared to have given a set of solutions to the crisis that our country faces. And like I was saying on Msokotwane, he has again accumulated a huge debt, ballooning it from how he found it. He found the debt at $11.9 billion. It's now in excess of $15.4 billion. So meaning he has accumulated almost another $4 billion in a period of 4 years. He has ballooned the local debt from 178 billion kwacha at the time. It's now sitting at over 232 billion. On my program, I was even questioning the so-called foreign reserves that we should celebrate, where they've announced that they've accumulated the foreign reserves to $5.2 billion. And they say the PF left them at $1.1 billion. Of course, the PF didn't leave them at $1.1 billion. They left them at $3 billion. Because remember, there was that wind for payment to all nations of $1.4 billion that was given to all nations because of the COVID crisis. So any IMF member got that, and it came in August. And so the PF left foreign reserve at $3 billion. These guys are claiming that is $5.2 billion. Before you answer that, let me just give you a perspective of how President Hichilema views his work. I think I must have his video, how he views the work he has done. He beats his chest that he has succeeded, but we don't seem to. Let me just give me a moment. I find that video, so then I invite you to speak just briefly as I look for the video.
So we urge our citizens that they remain calm. We can see light at the end of the tunnel, and that tunnel is now becoming shorter by the day. As we speak, we now have unprecedented rains in the last maybe 2 decades. And with those rains, yesterday Cabinet was informed that load shedding is likely to begin to diminish by June 2025. This is because the major water catchment areas of northwestern province into the Barotse, plains, and now also the Kafue, flood plains. Water takes 3 months journey to move from Kaleni Hills, from Chavuma, into Victoria Falls, into Kariba. 3 solid months. Water moves very slowly in the plains because it's flat. This water which you see when it rains here in Lusaka, we are going for work at ZNBC. Then you find that water is running fast. It's here in Lusaka. But the water needed to change the electricity situation or the water level situation in the Kariba or Kafue Gorge, upper and lower, or Iteji, moves very slow because once it gets to the plains are flat, so water velocity for overland flow of water is reduced. And that is why the
You have come at a time when this government, since 2021, has worked hard, debt restructuring, to restore law and order in public places, to restore the mining sector. That's why you've seen the increase in the copper production. The Kwacha stabilizing. That's why you saw Chisamba 100 megawatts on Monday. You've come at a time when the pump prices are going down because of the reforms in the energy sector. You've come at a time, post the drought, because of the push we're making for agricultural production. You have the largest maize production since independence. You've come at a time when we're pushing interest rates down. Inflation is coming down, fuel is coming down, food prices are coming down. You come at a time when there's a convergence of macro variables which should lead to stability in this country.
So the man says he's running such a successful government, he's even seeking re-election. What has been your assessment?
All right. You see, like I said, I supported President Hakainde Hichilema in 2021. And even though I would want to support him in 2026, the man makes it very difficult for someone like me who looks at things objectively to support him again. And I don't know if he says things without sitting down with his team or without really finding out what is happening on the ground, or he just says things because he wants you to believe what he says. And I want to think that the latter is actually correct. The president has made a lot of pronouncements in the last 4 years, which are very much detached from reality. Remember when he came into office, for example, within 1 year of being in office, he told us, it was actually a press briefing where he invited the media at State House, and he said load shedding was a thing of the past. This is what he said. He even challenged the people who were there to say, are you having load shedding in your homes? This is a thing of the past since we came into government. This came from the president's mouth. This is a clip that you can find if you go looking for it. Okay? Now, let's take it back just one step. The president in the opposition was not so much worried about the levels of water in the Kariba Dam. He said to us that if Dubai is a desert, if places like Saudi Arabia being a desert can actually blossom and be what it is today, why can't we do that to Zambia? And he was speaking to this issue in the context of load shedding and power outages during the Patriotic Front reign. So when you have the commander-in-chief, when you have the man at the helm of government make these pronouncements, and the pronouncements are so detached from reality, but they do not hold what he says over a period of time, it becomes very problematic for someone like me, who's supposed to think with my head, who's supposed to be, by all means, logical and assess the facts. Today, there is load shedding, and Cornelius Mwetwa, the Minister of Information and the Chief Government Spokesperson, in that clip that you played, said that load shedding will be a thing of the past in June of 2025. Who tells Cornelius Mwetwa that I can believe him today? When so many things has been said about load shedding and it has not happened in the last 4 years. What makes him, think that the Zambian people will sit back and say, yes, let's wait for June 2025, things will be better? Because the president promised this even before he came in office. 1 year after being in office, he actually challenged people. The load shedding had ended. But here we are today. I'm told, Ambassador, by the way, some people might think this one lives in America, he doesn't know what is going on. I have been in the country 3 times this year, 2020. I am in Zambia. I gather facts. I get on buses. I drive. I live I go to the markets and listen to what the people are saying. And even the so-called elite, people that don't live in the compounds, there are many people that have complained to me. They have in Lusaka 2 hours, 3 hours of power a day, 4 years on since the UPND took over government. So when I hear these statements, I don't know if I should laugh or I don't take such pronouncements from seriously. Now, I wanted to say this also. Ambassador unfortunate at the time that we have kind of leadership that have conscience, not even one in this government can resign on moral grounds. Not one. You look at the MMD era, you look at Dr. Ludwig Sondashi as Minister of Justice, and Levi Mwanawasa as Vice President resigning from cabinet in 1993. Where are that crop of leaders today? You don't see them. So they can say all sorts of things and want you to believe that, and things don't come to pass, and there's no accountability. That's the unfortunate part. Secondly, law and order. The president spoke to law and order. I have to say this, that I think on the score of law and order, the general feeling among the Zambian people is that I think the president has done well in terms of crowd management and in terms of not harassing people like we used to see with cadres and things like that, even though that is now debatable because there's been issues of cadreism coming up from the UPND. So I can give him that. Secondly, the president pointed out the issue of the mining sector doing very well. The mining sector is not doing well for the ordinary Zambian people. Why are we not seeing people happy with what is going on in the mines? Because the mining sector is doing very well for the so-called investors. The people that have brought in the capital, the money, are reaping the fruits of what they've put in, maybe even more than what they should be getting. Okay. Now, when the opposition speaks to this issue in terms of the government giving the government giving the investors tax holidays in the mining sector, the UPND has over and over again refused that claim. They have said this is not true, this is propaganda, but yet, if the mining sector is doing so well, why don't we have windfall taxes like Levi Mwanawasa and Ngandu Magandi? If the mining sector is doing so well, why are we not seeing the trickle-down effect on the copper belt? Unfortunately, the president himself was almost stoned by the residents of Chingola, which act I condemned myself. But this is a point that I'm trying to make. So I like to be very realistic with the facts. We talk about fuel. I was very sad to see a person who is a supporter and an apologist, or maybe even a member of the UPND, appear on KBN TV and speaking to, I think, Pastor Kennedy, who's the owner of KBN TV. And the guy had the guts to say, I'm challenging you to show me where President Hakainde said that he was going to reduce the price of fuel to 12 kwacha from 17 kwacha of the Patriotic Front. He said this publicly. And I said to myself, and Pastor Kennedy was trying to explain that, yes, he actually did promise this during the 2021 elections because he said that the PF had middlemen that were cutting deals, hence the fuel prices were up. So when he comes in, you remove the middleman. And the man says, no. This is the problem with you people. You don't quote things in context. You too much propaganda. Why did the president say that? It's on record. We have screenshots from social media where the president said that himself leading up to the 2021 elections. So to see people be so dishonest about national dialogue, to be so dishonest about facts is unfortunate. It is not good. Speaking of inflation, the president touched on inflation as well. Remember when the UPND came into power, inflation was double digits. And then at one time, they brought it down to, I think, 9%, with single digit. And that was the strong.
Aaron, just to support you, I saw that interview, Kenneth Mambwe, with a lawyer called McQueen Zaza, who speaks for the UPND on the issue we'll be going to, which is Bill 7. And he challenged Pastor Kennedy Mambwe that President Hakainde Hichilema did not promise that he would reduce the price of fuel, to 12 kwacha, did not promise that he would bring the price of millimil to 50 kwacha. Now, that was ridiculous. it was embarrassing to watch McQueen Zaza say those things, because the videos are there, the tweets are there, the Facebook postings are there, and that is why people say the president is a liar, because he promises things. People heard them, and we keep on repeating them. The allegations that he promised those things in 2016 again was another lie by McQueen Zaza. And I saw Kennedy just give up, because you cannot allow someone to argue with the truth, so you let them look the fool they are. So I just thought I could support you on that. Let's go to Bill 7. The president promised a durable, credible constitution. It was one of his 10 points plan. Many lawyers, including John Sango, have stated that there's nothing wrong with the current constitution, because it was a product of bipartisan, both the UPND and PF supported it, and it brought progressive provisions such as the election date, the running mate, guaranteeing that the vice president can't just be fired willy-nilly, as we saw. Mwanawasa had 3-4 vice presidents, Kavindele, Nevas Mumba, Lupando Mwape, and Rupia Banda. He had 4 vice presidents. That is part of the instability. So we provided for a running mate, and that the president couldn't fire the running mate, maybe only through impeachment. There are various clauses that are progressive, such as the creation of the Constitutional Court in this current constitution. But the UPND promised a new constitution. Well, they didn't attend to it until early this year, in March, when we saw the president announce in Kasama on 8th March, when there was Women's Day, that the draft constitution was ready and it was going to empower women. He then flew to Mongu on Youth Day, because those days follow one another. They are just a week apart. And again, he promised that the draft constitution was ready, and the youths would benefit from its new provisions that he was enacting. That started the crisis. Constitutional making in Zambia is very, very clear. From 1963 up to, I think, Mwanawasa, we've always used the Inquiries Act. A Constitutional Review Commission is set up. It goes out to gather the details, does a draft constitution. There is an elaborate process that is done. For both Mwanawasa and Edgar Lungu, they even did something beyond, where they allowed adoption processes to be done, not just by Parliament. Adoption was being done by another body, as we saw under Bill 10, where they proposed another body would adopt the provisions of the Constitution, and Parliament would merely enact without necessarily changing anything. This man just came up with a draft constitution from nowhere, and now we are seeing it's about to become law. Speak to Bill 7. Your thoughts about it?
Before I speak to Bill 7, Ambassador, I want to mention that in this quest for national dialogue and intellectual discussions, I think that it is important for us to be as honest as we can be. Some people that I don't consider to be might respond to. There is an African-American educator and scholar, he's late now, John Henry Clark. He used to say that I only debate my equals, the rest I teach. Okay? So it is exactly, for example, that you're saying in that interview with Pastor Kennedy. I mean, that chap, I cannot even debate him. I'd rather debate people that are really striving for truth, for honesty in the intellectual discourse that we are having. That discussion I can have, that debate I can have. But people who are so on something and everything, even if it's not correct, I'm not interested. In fact, it reminds me of one incident that I wanted to speak to as well, the issue of cadreism. There was a time when we saw the UPND cadres with machetes and pangas in Bauleni. I think it was after they buried someone, and the clips went viral and the people were condemning that. And the UPND, some of the UPND officials basically said, no, these are not UPND. They're just masquerading as UPND. But yet, their National Youth Chairperson, Gilbert Liswaniso, came out and said, I know those boys, those are UPND chaps, and will put the house in order. I mean, that is honorable. I mean, I would respect that. Even if in fact, even when the UPND cadres beat up some chaps at the PF Secretariat, not so long ago, there are a lot of people who discarded them and said these are not UPND cadres. But yet, Giswaniso again said, I saw a statement where he said, no, these are my boys, these are UPND, and we need to put this nonsense. I mean, that is the kind of politics we have to aspire to, not the bootlicking. The problem is the so-called the intellectuals, the educated, the elite, who have to take their children to school, who have to feed from the crumbs of the powers that be. These are the most useless people in our society because they have a status to maintain. Therefore, they switch today, they are PF, then they become UPND, and they just go wherever the bread is, as long as they can feed their stomachs. Those, I think, have no place in our society. We need to be serious about national dialogue. And this leads me to Bill 7. The same discussions that we're having around Bill 7 should be honest. When we disagree on facts as they are, not because I'm PF, I'm UPND, and so we just disagree. Ambassador, I want to agree with you on this specific fact that it came as a shock to some of us, including myself, when I heard the president in Kasama in March say that the Zambian people have agreed to amend the constitution. I was shocked. In fact, I wrote an article about that in the Mail and Guardian of South Africa. And I even said the title was, No, Mr. President, Zambians have not agreed to amend the constitution. There was no consultation before that. The president wanted to do this for himself, for the UPND, and for his administration. No doubt about that. So he made two public announcements, which came from the blue, that this process everyone has agreed to and is supposed to take off. Unfortunately, that was not the fact. And in fact, I guess we can say fortunately, when this issue came up before the Constitutional Court, what did the Constitutional Court say in the Munia Zulu and Celestina Mkandere case? The Constitutional Court said there was no wide consultation. Who did you consult? Who did you ask? It actually proved the article that I wrote saying that no Zambian has agreed to amend the Constitution. Who did you ask? But yet we have chaps who have to support anything for the sake of supporting it, that they will say anything. For me, I think that Bill 7, I even spoke about this when I was in the country, should have been withdrawn right after what the Constitutional Court ruled. Should have been withdrawn. And this was the recommendation by the courts, that the process has to be initiated, a whole new process to be initiated where there is wide consultation. The Zambian people should have been given the voice to come up with even the content of Bill 7. But it seems that the administration, the government, the executive created this bill from wherever they got it from and wanted to impose it on the Zambian people. Something also to remember, Ambassador, here, very important, is that even though the president initiated and wanted this bill to start going, the president was reprimanded by the Constitutional Court. He deferred the bill, so-called deferred the bill, and created the technical committee. And even with that technical committee, there are lots of questions around that. But anyway, the technical committee was put in place, and this technical committee tells us that they went around and got submissions, 11,860 submissions countrywide, and some of them virtually. Who submitted these submissions? Where did they come from? No statistics whatsoever like that. And not only that, but even the submissions of the technical committee is not what is brought before Parliament today. And again, Cornelius Mwetwa and the people in government are using an excuse of standing orders in Parliament instead of just having withdrawn a Bill 7, start the process again, come up with a technical committee with a legal framework that backs that with an act of Parliament. And then that technical committee can go around and do the work and submit the report to the president. So for me, I think that Bill 7, in fact, even before we go to the content of it, just the process itself, I'm with the Constitutional Court. The process was flawed. Hence, the question is, if the process of coming up with this bill was flawed, how do you arrive at a bill that is acceptable? That is a big question.
Thank you very much. To our dear listeners, we will be opening phone lines. We are hosting Aaron Ngambi, a geopolitical consultant based here in the United States. He's in Dallas, Texas, and is giving us insights of the state of our nation and the issue of Bill 7. Reports from Parliament indicate that the committee, the select committee that was chosen, headed by Gary Nkombo, to process and prepare this report for this bill for second reading by Friday, has completed its work. They just held some sittings over the weekend, and I think it was just academic because they appear to have finished their work, and you will have second reading of Bill 7 on Friday. It appears it is faithful that this poorly constructed issue, unconstitutional process, will birth a new constitution. What are your thoughts about that? What can be done?
I have a lot of misgivings about that. I'm not happy about that fate. And I think that if the Zambian people can remind this government that the constitution belongs to the people, that the people have the right to amend the constitution, I think that we'll be doing justice to ourselves. The problem we have now is that there's a lot of people who feel timid to speak out, and a lot of people who very much not really timid, but they're very much uninterested because of how the UPND has gone about the process. And they think
Aaron,
UPND
you come and answer that question. Let's just take a few questions from our callers. I've got the first caller here. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Yo nabo mbabalishan mukwai. Yo bale myumfwa. Mkwai.
Bamwamba ndefua fyokuipshako pali Bill 7 baletere ba UPND pandu yaba UPND fi efo ndefo kuipshako pandu balelanda ba UPND at next year tulia kuma elections mo 2026 tulia kuma election nomba ibalefo kusta delimitation ibalelanda po manje abantu balista register kuvote nomanga barandati basashita delimitate ma constituencies abalefu ati bakashita delimitate nomba abantu bakamukuvota shani talinga twashita register kola bati ngamwashita register kula mukuvotera pama polling station yasona so na ma constituencies yasona so nomanga chakwe bati if barashita delimitate meaning ama election 2026 takwa kabi bakisa chinja bakisa postpone takabako next year avini so bamwambaile pali tekona chilafu kuipusha bwino chichaishwa bwino chishibe pali finarondo langa chakwe bati ama election next year kwa sawa ngachakwe bati bashita delimitate ya Bill nga yapita mu parliament.
Okay, yoto alam yasuka. Thank you. About the delimitation process, I think there's someone who has asked about that. We will attend to that. Let's just take a few more calls. Keep on calling. I've got Aaron Ngambi, a geopolitical consultant based here in the United States. We are discussing the state of our country and Bill 7. Let me just take a few calls. Share the broadcast. Yes, caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Mwamba.
Endita.
Chilufya.
Bachilufya.
From the
Mkwai.
UK. It's been some time.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. I told myself I wasn't going to be participating. I wasn't going to be paying attention because I'm going to be honest with you. It's annoying. I'm surprised that you are even saying it seems that this bill. No, the guy has managed to get it through. We are in trouble. I will say this, Mwamba, please give me a bit of time. I'm one person who used to contribute to your program, and my argument about delimitation has been not the bigness of these constituencies. We see them as big simply because we've not made them accessible. We have got a population of 22 million. I've lived in the UK for 26 years. We are near enough 70 million now in a very small country. But every part of the country is accessible. That's what we needed to do. Where are we going to have a billion members of parliament? Bamwamba. We are only 22 million. We don't need even 100 MPs. And this is what the guy was campaigning on. This is what he was saying. The man used to say he was going to cut down the number of unnecessary positions. What is he doing? Do you know? I give up. Cheers, man.
Thank you. You know, like he's saying, it's annoying what they are doing to our country. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello, good evening, Ambassador Mwamba.
Good evening.
Ninewo nani maskola kwa kaputa kuno mkwai na poshako na ba Aaron Ngambi.
Mkwai.
Na bina Zambia wonsoko bale kutikila puli mulabasa. Ngepo fye mwata mpilokuru lande kwa fwa mulimo mwabomba ba mwamba mwa efasane echalo panti moneni bali tusumanyo tunwati zisayibalo. Takunangu pai yonse social media takwala kuchita comment fulfilled kumuti molondole shonsore tina na baloya tawabala ubakwata ne office limoli aba chemba tawalishi bapo nomba ififine fintu fya umalala fyafika hapa ubuteko bwa UPND na umalala kwati ni chile china mechitali umukoshi giraffe india buluga Finevo chitalama pakuchita ataki china machinango kutangala sana ya mulo ya tali and then gives a hard kick efo ubuteko bulefo kuchita kuli former citizens fwe baba salinde naba basali nabashaba salinde chonde ipshapo chakwe bati hapa ne stage ya fintu fikire ukuti nomba ababende ba technical committee nabasali nefo basali ne bushe nga kuli twande chingo kwe bati ushilumbula mfani mukamweso tatule tine chile chitika tule ya fair head tuishibe mwelesa mara tufisha kwisa mu parliament mulia inga chachi ne chintu chapita nishichapwa mwewa ishibokulondola amafunde ya chalo kusheni shichapwa icho balefwa icha kwaka na ma constituencies chikabako ero baka ichite favor baye yakanyoko kwa kuti baka ipele ya ma constituencies pabili na patatu so that bakwata ama numbers ayengi nisichapwa chaendelela takuli okuteka obukakwata opportunity ukwisa nokisa chinje fintu nisichapwila bapene chapwa bakainde bena bakulasi entanshu mukulote fyabo.
Thank you, ma'am. To answer you, Mwewena Kaputa Natasha.
Thank you, guys.
That we have another caller. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good afternoon or morning, Ambassador. My name is Uncle J.
Uncle J, make your contributions.
Thank you very much. This Constitution Amendment Bill number 7 is a disease that has come, unfortunately, to Zambia, partly
I'm actually blaming us as citizens of our country. I think we've become too complacent and we are not taking keen interest in the affairs of our country. And we've let everything to the politicians to speak on our behalf, even when we are called upon as a people to stand up against this evil. We are not taking that step. What we are good at is love, insult people that are speaking against it, but when these things come, they are falling squarely on all of us as a country. This Bill 7 is an evil that is really meant to destroy our country to a point where it will take many, many years to rebuild. The truth of the matter is Hakainde Hichilema will not be there forever. His aim basically is to continue building a system that will continue to allow not only him but his tribe men to continue doing what they are doing to the country, to remain in power. That is their strategy. They don't want to leave power. Whether HH leaves power today, someone else must be able to inherit. So this one, apart from the MPs, who are actually most of them are compromised, it requires us as the citizens to say no to this bill, because you can tell that there is a lot of secrets behind. What they've done here clearly has shown that he's arrogant, he's very stubborn, he doesn't care what people say. His aim, his plan and purpose is to achieve his goal. And his goal is to make sure that this bill goes through, because it will empower him to do what he wants to do. This bill, Zambians should understand that it has nothing to do with the well-being of the nation, but it has everything to do with Hakainde Hichilema and his partners in businesses. Our country, once this bill is approved, what will happen? The chiefs who have no land, because next they are going to do right now will be Bill 13 will come through. The chiefs who have no say, their land will be gone. This land, they've mapped it out for minerals. And the moment this bill goes, you will bring in Bill 13 because you have numbers and nothing will stop him. So Zambians, we have ourselves to blame. I pray that only God at this moment will intervene for us as a nation. But we really need to get to a place where we say enough is enough. We cannot allow one man destroy a country, and we are watching. We are watching just like this. I thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me see if there are some more callers I can see. A lot of people still want to speak. Aaron, just allow me to take more calls so that then we... Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Thank you, Bamwamba. Sinyangwe down on the line.
Yes, Sinyangwe.
Bamwamba, you know what? I realized yesterday when you had improving, and then I've also picked up a very good point. Bamwamba, as a nation, Zambia, do we even have money? Because when you set up more constituencies, you build constituency offices, you build like a district. So why would you be forcing Zambians when our country doesn't have that kind of resources? This is something that I've been asking myself to say. He wants to increase the number of MPs in parliament. But does the country have resources and give these office bearers their constituencies? Because you now have to develop these areas that you are going to make these MPs. And then secondly, Bamwamba, you see, this fight, I can ask you, Bamwamba, look at you. Look at the most callers that call you on this program. Most of us are in diaspora. I'm a Zambians on the ground. Nyabe nabatumama phone anonymous. Bamwamba, this Bill 7, and even every Zambian that is listening, we are creating a dictator in office. Already, we never used to see this culture of anonymous. Now imagine the powers that are going to be vested in this person who is doing this for his personal agenda. Can every peace and loving Zambian let us stop this? Let us call our MPs to say, before you sign or vote for this, think about our future. This is not about a personal agenda. Thank you, Mwamba. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. It looks like my dear sister is back. Yes, my dear sister.
Yes, please. Am I welcome?
Yes, you are. You are online.
Mwebantu. Ichile sakamika. Our brother Chilufia waba UK. Bachilanda ati. Vali kwisa pali program. And my discouraged nephew from Ganefonse Flichtika Utungush waba kainde. Webu kishokwe bati. Eba liko kumitashi mukubafu. Tetiba. But wherever you are, come back on this platform. Let's contribute. Na papa ni chakosa sana. Muiska kopali bwana ndembululeni. Ichile mbachila tuwewa. Teti mufunde kolwe mumushe pala pambi. Apapa ni chakosa shomsango. Woza wena Zambia konsoko muline nshitafe fyonsefe fishupire. Muileka ukusunta okulanda popali chichintu. Bantu mwalale kelesha. Basing time. No, there must be a stillborn. Chifuila pa delivery table. Mulamu ine parliament chifwe. Lesaeka tinemi timaya babe nama UPND MPs. Bamu ne fact it's not a good thing abana babu n'abana besu nabe shukuru besu bonse bakulire muri ba dictator. Mwalimu nefi abantu bafire ku Tanzania. Tabakwete pona pa kulanda kasuba suba fe bayam kubashika mu mass grave. Ichintu twale kelesho kumona kuma struggle for independence time. Bweleni bachuke mulande fishinge fo mwingalande chifukushita chibomba na bwebena Kristo wose mwali chifuko bati mupashiwa mshilo tatente mana pali ichifukushi isireni twampa ne pamutulande nabalanda bankasheso abafu mabalelanda pa ni mweba ku diaspora melanda ifo kuno ku Zambia ku bali shwani kwa kaputi they can even source number pa shani yubazikita bene fo bachita but mwebantu echo na abantu kanshi bafuila po pafintu kulandila pachintu kumonati twalaika la shani uyu muntu na umalala po fiefine alefu afe alelande fyako tukwati ama MPs 2 milioni turefuna nokulipira ba doctor turefuna nokulipira ba nurse na ba teacher turefuna nokulipira wino bakapokola. That's why it's very easy for them to be corrupt like in their services. Efuna atila fo kulanda kubati abena Zambia basoko mulimu isusu kabwangu tebafunda kolwe mwamusha ya pambi kupwishisho mulimo nga mwaudampa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't give up, Zambians. Don't give up. Live on hope. Fight on. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello?
Yes, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello?
We can hear you. Make your contributions.
Hello?
We can hear you. Make your contributions.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes. Oh, the caller can't hear me. I'll ask him to call back. But it's very encouraging from our woman from Kaputa telling Bachulufia, you can't give up. You supported Ichilema, you didn't give up. Why are you giving up now? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, and the nation listening to us, we are hosting Aaron Ngambi, an analyst, a geopolitical analyst. He was on BBC last week, discussing the matters affecting our country. And today we are discussing the state of the nation. Let me just see if I can take a few calls, Aaron, so that when I bring you on, we do not interrupt you. Okay. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Endita. Mkwai. Make your contribution.
Natotela mkwai. Ineba mwambande fwaya njipushe pwame pushwaya kuliba Aaron na imu mtu wasuke. Since now, chamune kokweba ati Zambia, we have got a constitutional crisis, and the governance system has collapsed, and the government, tabale chindika koti, tabale chindika ama procedure na fyonse, ifu file fyachitika. Pakumona kuti urupapuro lwa chalo lwaenda bwino, tabale tina. So it means the governance system in our country has collapsed, constitutionalism, it has collapsed, amafunde yashita collapse. Nomba uwipusha unkwete We have the Law Association of Zambia, we have Ziari, n'abantu bonse abachingira amafunde. Since the procedure and all the laws governance govern our country has collapsed, what is the reason should the Law Association keep quiet and proceed in this manner? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
I'm on?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Bamwamba, your colleague here. Let me reduce the volume here so that I get the feedback. Yes, volume down. Okay, cool. Bamwamba, I know the heartfelt expression of the last caller. He is saying the governance has collapsed. The system has collapsed. No, the problem is we have an unruly person running the country. Nothing has collapsed. Bakateka tabumfua. These are my words, they are not your words. Bakateka tabumfua, and that's why people are feeling that the system has collapsed. And a question to my brother there, my young brother there. I got scared. He looks like Bowman Lusambo. When he came, I said, my God, Bowman. He looks like Bowman. I said, hey, will you move to me?
No, it's a blue suit. He will come and defend himself.
I think he needs to defend himself. Is there any relation with you and the Bowman? But I just beg to differ with the previous caller. It is not that the systems have collapsed. It's because we have someone that is unruly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wakafwimbi. Wakafwimbi says we have a belligerent president. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. No, tatuputula pano. There was just another caller.
Okay, thank you. So,
your name and where you are calling us from.
I'll remain anonymous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, what you talk about Zambia? Turakoza sana instamkutari kishanya kozinga twarorosha hii ne bill 7 it's not like if the mufyonse fivi muri kisuma muri bill 7 because example ningamepera next year turi kuma elections and then itakwata settle down pariashdia article 52.6 that one whether you like it or not ikatupero bwafya ngata tubomberepo so that's why nangu ningampera kwa imbi example we 12 years now tatwasa sort out issue ya road trading tutarikishanya fie ama problem tukwetaria we need certain at a certain point we just need to sit down and see the way forward what is better for our country because stage 3 tarikishanya fie this bill 7 is just okay you can't just say no nang munga muchitatak mwaramsatak hlo but mwamono wa America bari mpera funding ida $2 billion ida some country ba America na ba monatu yumuntu swabo manankwe nomba mwe citizen mwala mutaruka shani koze mufire fira ilanga no kwilanga kumanati no kuri we atanshure ama mainzi at least ari bombera po fira chinja so not to spend in state that mukutarikishanya let's find a solution because nangu twingala ndati no your example atala ndati no if you are ofimbi if you are kwatama MP no, like the example I wanted to give about UK, that no, we don't need more MPs. No, it just depends because Zambia is on its own. The way to panga system to develop Zambia is different from the UK. UK spent a lot of time to build their own roads and stuff like that. It can't happen overnight.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hi, Ambassador. This is Queen Pumi. How are you today?
My co-host, you are missing today. I've got Aaron Ngambi, an analyst from Texas. Make your contribution. Queen Pumi, Pumulos Tumbeko is a leader of New Era Democratic Party. Make your contribution, my dear sister.
Thank you, sir. So I have a kind of questions or statement. One is about UPND and their policy of like only a Tonga person can lead the party. And the other thing is a question on delimitation. So I'm just sitting here and listening to all the callers and I'm thinking, isn't this Bill 7 will end up being like an ethnic cleansing for the parliament? Because if you look at what Bill 7 is suggesting is that if an MP for some reason loses a seat, then the party will pick a replacement. But if it's independent, they will go for by-elections. So again, this is like now all the MPs will be siphoned into a political party. On the other hand, the political parties who are there, the UPND is controlling who is the president of a political party, and that president controls the adoption certificate of candidates. So again, you see, their control is there. So my question is to you, the MPs, whether you are opposition or ruling, don't you think that you are voting yourselves out of your political career? I think this is a serious question that all of the MPs, 156 of them, should sit and think. If they vote this Bill 7 in, they are giving power to whomever will be the president of UPND. So again, we are here, like my sister called and said, we will die fighting, we'll go down fighting. We are not going to give up on this fight easily. We'll speak to the conscience of the MPs. Dear MPs, sit and think what will happen to you when you consolidate a power in the hands of one president. And then if you're not from that region, think that, can you just think what will happen? They will be taking MPs from other regions to put in your regions. So basically, the way government has got people from one region, this is how parliament will be. Parliament will be filled with people from one region. That is the Rwanda formula. Friends and family in government and also in parliament, state under capture. My other point is on this delimitation. Now, MPs are excited of this 3 million, whatever. But when you think of delimitation, okay, if they add these MPs, and if we go under the current structure, UPND will not win the election. So they have to make sure that they do the delimitation. Now, we just finished the voter registration. So my question is, or actually a confirmation. So does this mean that this actually delimitation actually tells us that there will be no election in 2026? Because if this Bill 7 passes, then they'll have to go in and create new constituencies and new voter registers, like the other caller who talked about where are people going to vote? Because we have been told the delimitation report is ready, but they want to include this in the next election. So this is another confirmation to say we might not see an election next year because they have to go back, they limit constituencies and voters re-registered throughout the country. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Queen Pumi. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yeah, good evening, Ambassador Mama. My name is Anik Matip.
Good evening.
I'm calling you from Lusaka, Zambia.
Thank you.
Mine is more of a comment as well as a question because, you know, Zambia is slowly degenerating into a one-party state. This usually happens when power concentrates on one leader or a small group, leading to the suppression of civil liberties and the political opponents are equally suppressed. It's like we Zambians are dead while living because we are living in fear. Citizens are experiencing intimidation as well as human rights abuses. You mean in all what is happening, what is going on, the Bill 7 being pushed down our throats, no one has the heart for the Zambians in the UPND to deliver us through dialogue with their leader. Honestly, I think we still have credible men and women in the UPND, some more Christian than I myself, more Christian. When you look at Madame Mutale Nalumango, married to a bishop or a pastor, she is, for lack of a better word, ordained in a white robe. They say politics is dirty, but it cannot take us back to pre-independence. We need a solution for Zambia. If this, through even a percentage, is allowed to go through, Bill 7 goes through, delimitation goes through, surely Zambia is headed for a one-party state, and I would like to believe it will take us a very long time to come out of it. So my appeal really is to Madame Mutale Nalumango, a mother of the nation, who, in my view, I think can sit down with her boss, find it in her heart to try and deliver the Zambians. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwamba.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. Passionate appeal to Nalumango as a woman. Maybe she should prevail over these men that want to harm our country. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello, Ambassador Mwamba, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, Ambassador Mwamba, sorry, I'm on the train, so at times we are losing out the frequency.
Oh,
yeah.
It's great sacrifice that you can go on the train. Please proceed.
My job is like cross country. It's from one place to another place. I just want to give a quick contribution.
Yes.
Yes, I have partially listened to Aaron Ngambi. Yes, even though I haven't actually got everything because of lack of communication, yeah. I just partially listened to his analysis. As I am on the train, I've already explained to you, I'm not able to catch up with everything. Well, from my understanding, Mamwamba, I would like to say that the situation in which our country is on standstill, and it's very, very sad, yes. Well, from what I do actually, and this is just out of my mind, yeah. I should say that maybe it could be that our forefather, ever since our country was born in 1962, yeah, maybe they never left, a good example of a real unity, to those who had followed them. I think this is the reason why we have kept on having this problem, and we need to be very, very careful, because this could actually, image even for the years to come. So we need to be really careful and see what we could do, because if what we are hearing is true, what's happening on the ground, it could be a sad story for our children who are yet to born. Yes.
Thank you,
so
Mama.
This
thank
is
you.
all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And thank you for your sacrifice.
Much for Aaron Ngambi, for having given us a lot of information from his experience.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Mangwamba. We have just left. I won't be able to say much because of the noise of the train. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello, good evening, Ambassador. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Thank you. My name is Alex, Ambassador. I want just to raise certain concerns that I've seen in my beloved country. So we are trading on a very bad state currently. The situation, the man in power is actually not there for the people. We have seen things which we have never seen before. We have seen the dealings, even when they talk about the electricity, commenting on what you have, the video that you played earlier on. Sir, you can tell that these people have got no heart for any of the citizens apart from themselves. Or we see the government is selling electricity to some other neighboring countries. This government sold the maize to some other countries. So even when they are talking about that they have raised so much money in the reserve, billions, 2.something billion, this is a total lie. The guy is there to enrich himself, not any other things, but just to enrich himself. So as a country, we need to rise up, we need to open up and defeat even so-called Bill 7, because if he has done a lot for the nation, the work should speak for him, not him wanting to impose himself on the citizen. No. I call upon each and every well-meaning citizen to rise and defend. It's like we are now going back to like the time when our forefathers were fighting for independence. We have to fight for our right and our independence now from this man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There are so many calls, and I hope that I will have enough time for my dear brother to contribute. Please call quickly before I close the I know there are so many missed calls, but let's see if we can get 2 more or 3, then I throw to my dear brother. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, my name is Sinyangwe Dani. I'm just calling back again, Vamwamba. There was one anonymous caller, and I called. He was saying we need to give thanks to the current president because Zambia is at a place where now the US is even giving us more money. For me, that's even a big problem. We have enough of our resources that we don't need any country to be finding us. We have enough minerals. We have enough resources. So by the virtue of us getting more money and borrowing, that does not mean that all is well. So for me, I know we can praise the president in other things, but borrowing money should never be the gauge for us to say things are okay. And then if things are okay, the same person he calls and he says anonymous caller, and then you're saying things are okay. Can we be so? Sometimes let's look at where we are coming and where we are today. Ambassador Mwamba, where are you today? You left Zambia because of a person who cannot handle people like you, who cannot handle being criticized, and then you say things are okay in Zambia. We should not be thinking like that, Zambians. We've got a bigger crisis. Like everyone is saying, if we allow this Bill 7, then we're going to have a one-party state. We don't want that, and that will not happen. Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba.
Thank you very much. Hello, caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello, this is Mwewa from Livingston.
Yes, Mwewa.
Hello, good evening, Bamwamba.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Aaron. Tutotera sana pari presentation yaba Aaron on Bill 7. What I wanted to comment on is the same Bill number 7. Ama Zambians na bakana ila Bill 7, and ama Zambians ukana bakene. Ama representatives, for example, by Oasis Forum. That composition about Oasis Forum, like for example, ama Catholic bishops. They represent all the Catholic members in Zambia. Gamamuna Baro Association of Zambia, they represent Tama lawyers, won't say Muzambia. So these are some of the organizations ayakwata following yabantu ayaire ku state house to go and table the bill 7 but nabakana. And then what we should know is that wa umine abali 4 ambire na umo. So for Zambians that we should go about bill 7 in Gayapita. Actually I feel for people like you, Mr. Mwamba, who is in exile for just loving your country. You have found yourself in exile. And now there you are in exile. We are under 2016 constitution. Nombanga twawa under bill 7. Wamwamba bushe mumukabwera kucharo ku Zambia. Tamakabwele because the bill 7 it is support the unkarwe sana bill 7. And when you look at most of the content of the bill 7 is to one part state. Now the example I can give you, it is me who is here in Livingston, and I've been in Southern Province for a long time, from 1996. Now, Southern Province, I'm a councillors, I'm a MPs, I'm a mayors, won't say by UPND. But now a president by UPND, now a vice president by UPND. But in Southern Province, mo UPND ya kwa sana support. Muise background moni insala ili Southern Province. Southern Province wa mwamba muli insala. So insala ta ili insala. Insala konse ko ili insala. And then ababantu in terms of development, ama councillors ama MP bonse na bakwataba. No, but why are they failing to develop? Even in areas where they have 100% support. Nombanga abantu nabafira okuteka ekyalo babikepo nokutali mpyo kwikalirira efyo balayikalirira finji. So pali bill 7 yena, what I'm saying is that Zambians pali bill 7 yena 10 twikatyane fe sana fe naba opposition bonse ama churches bonse fe 10 twikatyane fe. I think ida proposal yali pa first yaba Oasis Forum with before tabalaya kunanika ku state house. I think it is way area so that for Zambians that is the only way to allow push kuli nanika kuli feel if we feel circumstances ngatwarolera ati bakayipingula bene bakomfwa ababata tatabomfwa that's why nabarungu tatwashikira pali nomba. So for Zambians through our leaders about Oasis Forum, I think this is the high time that we should call upon each and every Zambian to summon their courage and stand up for Mother Zambia. Na bonsa bali mu diaspora abaneso abengira abachula abantu bali ku kifungo kwa buli milandu bana kachindo mulandu bali futa kale bachite bale serving a sentence bana kachinda bamulandu shabako. So ama example ninga pera yengi abena muna Zulu abena jeje banda those are abantu abayishibikwa sana kuli abengi abachudire under this regime. So before balipo ko kutira umwenzo tufute tulire chalo chefichi ichi chalo chesu na chiri captured mulandu ama minerals tukwete muno chalo ama minerals yesu unonshi bwesu ebo atufisho okukwaso unonshi bwesu bambo kutupanisha. How cast are we as Zambians? Abo mwamba vingi fya kulandaninga kwata mutima ola furwa sana na totera sana.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let me take the last caller. Whoever is calling becomes the last caller. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Zambia, anonymous Mwamba.
Yes, thank you.
Ya nami posha na ba Aaron Ngambi. Ndinkwata question, ma question zabiri, si mwasuka na ngwisheri onze. Ushe mu parliament ba Mwamba na ba Aaron. Mwali
have we lost
Hello?
We lost you there. Repeat the question, my brother.
Yeah,
my question is there any possibility in the parliament to rig the selection? That's my first question. Are you with me?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go with your second question.
Hello, are you with me?
We can hear you, my brother. Just continue. Oh, we lost him. I hope he's the one calling back. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is. I will try to remain anonymous for a moment.
Yes, anonymous.
Yeah. I followed this debate from when it started, but I'm worried that there's a certain section of the Zambians which has not given out its voice against this evil bill. And the special case in point is, when you look at the chiefs and traditional leaders from certain provinces, they've been coming out in total support of certain bills. But we have seen some muteness, especially in northern province. Everybody's quiet. Even the chiefs now are intimidated because, if I recollect, there was a time when even the paramount chief of northern province was had an article used to do some articles in the Post, which were very commented on social matters, very politically inclined, and they were meant to move Zambia into a better democratic space. Now, if Mukuni was very, very, very vocal during the time when the UPND was in opposition, I am surprised that our chiefs have all of a sudden gone quiet, and they don't have a say when it comes to issues of what is the position about the interest of their subjects, especially based on the fact that right now they have become second or third class citizens, not even second class citizens, probably they are last on the pecking list. The Easterners, no, this is not a tribal thing, it's a fact, because the articles are bound which are showing that all appointments are being made from southern, western, and northwestern. And if you have to look for the pegging list, this is southern first, western second, northwestern third. Then you go and say, we are just the fourth class citizens who, if you get if you get a position, that is just by a speck of luck. Now, if you're a chief and you've got subjects spread all over Zambia, you ought to speak for your people and say, look here, what is happening is not fair. But why are our chiefs so mute, so quiet, while chiefs from other areas are talking? And our chiefs have kept quiet. Are they scared that they will be locked up because they have commented on something which is affecting their subjects? I would want somebody to clarify what. It's like some of us, we may come from these regions, but we still don't have any representation because in Parliament, our representatives are still not being heard. Like the gentleman who talked about the judiciary. There's no judiciary. Any case which goes to court, you know the ruling. Today we heard about Vadan Pule that has been found with the case to answer. It's clear. It will be 90% certain, 95%, 99% certain that Vadan Pule will be convicted. Because of the people, he removed all the judges and put judges who he has made sure you make rulings according to what, because all those judgments are made at community house. They're not made by a rational judges or magistrates. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Aaron, on this program, I'm glad that you are familiar with it, and there are still calls coming in, is that we allow as many people as possible because it's an interactive program. So I'm so sorry that we had to take so many calls. But you had some thoughts about Bill 7. Clear those thoughts, then answer to whoever you wish you can provide insights.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I wanted to give context to where we are with Bill 7 and what my thoughts are, but also just clarify something that I said on BBC. Very important. And what I wanted to really say is that the genesis of Bill 7 is a problem. Okay? If you remember, the UPND, through the Minister of Justice, then it was Haimbe, who said that we're going to start with non-contentious clauses in the Constitution. Okay? They said they're going to work this out as the executive, as government, and only bring to the Zambian people non-contentious issues. Okay, this is just at the very beginning, if you recall that. Now, when you look at Bill 7 as it is, with the 13 clauses or changes, amendments that they want to make, I want to say something to the caller that spoke in defense of Bill 7. You know, he said, but, this is okay, so the bill is fine. The problem is we fight too much as Zambians. My response to that is that when Hakainde Hichilema was debating Bill 10, the president in the opposition, he said that there are many progressive clauses in Bill 10. But in this Bill 10, there are still one or two clauses that are problematic. Therefore, it is poison. Okay? This is what President Hakainde said. And I want to show the Zambian people and your audience, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, that yes, there may be 2 or 3 or 5 out of 13 clauses that may be good and progressive in Bill 7. But let me show you what I have a problem with. Okay? And this is the point I tried to raise with the BBC. Number one, if you look at the first clause, A, it says revise the composition of the National Assembly to provide for the increase in the number of constituency-based seats from 156 to 211 to achieve the delimitation report by the Electoral Commission. Now, the Electoral Commission has not published that delimitation report to the Zambian people. So we don't even know which constituencies they're going to divide and increase. That is problem number one. And this I want to warn the members of parliament, those who are on the fence, those who appear for opposition and they're so unsure or there are rumors that they have been bought. The problem is that you don't know who and what you're dealing with. Okay? This specific clause will be used as a bait and switch for you. Okay? Some of you will go and vote for Bill 7 and thinking that if it passes, your constituency will be divided. Therefore, you take one side and still win and come back to parliament. And the other side will be for maybe a UPND member or someone else. But what will really happen is that when your constituencies are divided, for example, Kalushi is divided in Kalushi and Chambeshi, what is going to end up happening if a member of parliament from such a constituency votes for it? I can guarantee them that there's no guarantee with the UPND. You can't make a deal with the UPND thinking that in the election they will support you and that you retain one side of that constituency. This, you remember me, it's going to be a bait and switch. You vote for this bill, you're going to make this bill pass as an MP thinking that yes, they've promised that they'll split the constituency and they've even maybe promised that they'll support you. But the nomination will not come from any of the party that you're going to run on. The UPND will not take you in, and this is going to be a disaster for you personally. I can predict that. And there are some people that are my friends, in fact, ambassador, that may be mutual in politics, that I can tell you that are very much aware of predictions and things that passed and how they've happened. So the UPND do not mean well when it comes to delimitation, because if they did, they would have produced the delimitation report by now from the Electoral Commission. They would have shown the Zambian people, these are the so many seats we're going to increase from this region, in that region, and so on and so forth. Because they have not done that and they want the bill to pass, And when the bill passes, they can show you the report and there'll be nothing that you're going to do about that delimitation, the increase of those seats. The other problem with the bill is the second point. Revised electoral system for election of the National Assembly to provide for a mixed member proportional representation electoral system to guarantee the representation of women, youth, and persons with disability. When the president started this campaign talking about this amendment process, he wanted to sell this to the Zambian people. He said, well, we're going to introduce the mixed, in fact, he was describing a quota system and he called it proportional representation. And some of us wrote about that just to clarify. But even this proportional representation, mixed member proportional representation that they want to go to, this is a system in South Africa. This means that when the Zambian people go to the polls, they vote for individuals. Aaron Ngambi running as MP for Karurushi. You're going to vote for a party that I belong to. You're going to vote the UPND or whatever party. And which party gets the more votes, they have representation in parliament. They get a certain number of seats in parliament. This is a problem. This is a problem because we are taught that together with this, the president is going to nominate a certain number of MPs. You know, I saw a debate between Chipoka Mlenga, Kasese Bota of the CF, and I think Kasonda Mwenda and somebody else. And Kasese Bota mentioned that, in fact, we're hearing that the president will nominate 45 members of parliament, you know, and Chipoka Mlengo was very quick to call her out. No, you see, this is not honest discussion. This is not honest dialogue because the president, according to the constitution, is only allowed to pick 5% of the number of MPs in parliament, which is not correct. Chipoka Mlenga misled the country. What he was citing was actually a law that applied to local government in 1965. Okay, now, if Chipoka Mlenga says that 211 members of parliament, 5% of that is only 10 MPs that the president will nominate, how is it that when it was 150 members of parliament, we had 8 members of parliament, it went up to 156, 8% of 5% of 156 still remains 8 members of parliament. So even the math that he was trying to argue does not add up. There is an ambiguity here. There is a gray area here that this bill and the government has not come out to explain is the number of members of parliament that this government intends to nominate. In fact, if you read further, it says there's 20 women, 16 youth, and 3 disability. In some places, the technical committee has actually alluded to different numbers. Now, the point I want to make here with this point, which is very disturbing, is that this is how Mugabe ended up with ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe taking over everything. Okay? This is how Yoweri Museveni ended up altering parliament in Uganda and changing any law that he wants. This is what it will do to Bill number 7 is what you do to the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. Okay? If you get 211 members of parliament through delimitation, and then the president appoints those 30 or 40, it's going to completely alter the face of parliament. And the UPND will get away with anything that they want to pass. They'll have 2/3 majority and they change the constitution for whatever it benefits them. This is a problem. And this is the issues that I have with Bill 7. And I've only pointed out 2. I want to go to another one very quickly. D, the issue of revise the provision relating to by-elections. There's this idea that we have to completely do away with the by-elections. They are costly and blah, 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 blah. These by-elections are actually budgeted for in the budget. In every year when we have this, the Minister of Finance present the budget to the National Assembly, what we see is that there's an allocation given to this exercise. Therefore, to argue that it is so costly is actually baseless. It has no basis in reality. And the three clauses that I've alluded to, Ambassador and our people listening, these are contentious issues. They cannot be non-contentious. Changing the face of parliament. How is that not non-contentious? Okay, talking about by-elections, how is that not non-contentious? And yet the government wants to make it seem like they came up with provisions in the beginning that will not be contentious. The last one that I opened up with the BBC and I want to show you is a problem for me. And that is H. Okay, it says remove the 2-term limits for office of mayor and council chairpersons. I tried to explain to the BBC interview that I had is that this is what the problem is with Bill 7, is that the argument which the president gave, by the way, at Mulungushi International Conference Center, I listened to him make this argument to say that if a mayor is a good mayor, why should a mayor have 2 terms? The people should allow the mayor to go on for more terms because the members of parliament don't have a cap on the term limits. The councillors don't have a cap on the term limits except the mayor and the president. Okay? Now, this is what this will lead to. The problem with this provision is that, yes, you're going to vote for Bill 7 and remove term limits on the council chairperson or the mayor. But yet, when this bill passes, the president has altered parliament. There's 211 members of parliament and maybe 30 and 40 nominated by him. Okay? And they have 2/3 majority. The president will go back to parliament and say, all the elected officers, councillors, council chairperson, mayor, MPs, all of them do not have term limits. Why should the president have term limits, 2 term limits? And they're going to lift the term limits on the presidency. Okay? And this is where the Zambian people have to realize that when Hakainde Hichilema talked about the poison in Bill 10, even though other clauses were progressive, and those other clauses that were progressive actually are in Bill 7, such as the MP sitting on council meetings, okay? That was in Bill 10, and they brought it back in Bill 7. So other clauses may be progressive, but there is a poison in that Bill 7. There is a problem with a few clauses, which I have alluded to. And now, I am not a legal scholar. I've never studied law. But I can tell you that these are political implications of what happens to a country going forward. Therefore, we're going to move from a parliament that is 156 members of parliament, which is quite okay for what it is now, to 211. And we don't know which constituencies are going to be delimited until after the bill is passed. So we don't know what regions get how many members of parliament. And then on top of that, the president nominates 30 or 40 members of parliament, changes the face of parliament, and gives the ruling party 2/3 majority. The president could very as well effectively remove term limits in between 2026 and 2031, and therefore could go on and on. So this is my analysis of where we are at right now. And this is why the members of parliament should be able to do the right thing for the country. Not for the PEF, not for the UPND, but for the country. And I want to say this to members of parliament, especially the independents, the 10 independent members of parliament. You have nothing to lose if you don't support this bill. You could still run again on another party. You can come back to parliament. You do not need the UPND to coerce you into supporting the bill or to even bribe you to support the bill. This is something that you need to do for the country. Now, I want to address a few callers. I've only addressed one guy who spoke in favor of Bill 7. And I've explained to you, hopefully you understand, my brother, that this may have progressive clauses. There's 13 amendments, but that 4 that I've appointed to are actually a problem. And the process in itself was not constitutional according to the Constitutional Court. And in fact, it was also said by the government that this would be a process of non-contentious clauses, but what I have read out here are all clauses that are contentious. So we have a government that has not been honest about this process. I want to address Queen Pumulo. I think Ambassador, you call her, you call host. I disagree with you that it is the policy of the UPND that only a Tonga can be president. That is not correct. I mean, some things may have happened in the past where some individuals may have said things like that, but this is over 20 years ago. And today I've never heard anyone say that, nor even imply that. So I think that it will be dishonest for us to go with that narrative or to mislead people in that way. I also want to address another caller, I think Nwachilufia, who has given up. And he had supported Hakainde Hichilema in 2021. Nwachilufia, I did the same. I supported President Hakainde in 2021, and I thought that the change that he had promised would come, but I don't think he's achieved as much as I would have wanted to. But let me make this prediction, Ambassador. I think that this bill will be defeated. I believe in the Zambian people. I believe in the members of parliament that we have and their integrity. I think that if this bill goes for a vote before the floor of the House, it will be defeated. And that is a problem for President Hakainde Hichilema. Because if this bill is defeated, it is going to send a signal to the Zambian people to say, oh, look at the people who've been calling today. They're all anonymous. These people will be empowered, will be embodied to say, oh, so we can take on the elephant when we go to the ballot. And exactly what happened to the PF with Bill 10, when the Zambians defeated Bill 10, Zambians knew that then they can vote the PF out of power. So President Hakainde Hichilema and the government should be very aware, in fact, should be wary, that if Bill 7 is defeated, even if it's by 2 or 3 votes, I can guarantee him that he'll be trading on thin ice, because then the elections of August 2026 may not be favorable for him. The right thing to do for President Hakainde now is to withdraw the bill. And even when he does that, he doesn't lose, because when he does that, he can go to the Zambian people and argue that I'm a listening president. I listen to the Law Association of Zambia, the Oasis Forum, the Church, and everybody, and we are dialogue, and so I have withdrawn this bill. If he does that, he will have more credibility from the Zambian people, and some people who don't support him now may be persuaded to support him. And also, the other thing that the president has to do after withdrawing that bill, in fact, I think that he missed an opportunity. When the Oasis Forum said we're going to peacefully demonstrate, the president held a press briefing 2 days before and basically just lashed out against the church, and lashed out against the Oasis Forum. What he should have done is he should have allowed the people to peacefully demonstrate, just like we saw the UNZA students who marched to State House guided by the police, no fracas, nothing, and escorted back. He should have provided security, the police to escort the Oasis Forum, peacefully demonstrate, and then he would have come back to make the argument to Zambian people and say, look, the opposition accused me of shrinking the democratic space, but people can protest in this country, okay? But he lost the opportunity to do that. This is why I wonder who advises the president, especially on issues of politics. It worries me. So, Ambassador, in a nutshell, these are the concerns I have about Bill 7. This is what I've explained. If there's anything that the viewers and listeners can take away from us today, is that number one, the genesis of this bill was a problem and still remains a problem, okay? And that the government has not been honest and transparent. And thirdly, that the Constitutional Court actually supports the position that I take now, that this bill was a top-down. It was imposed on the Zambian people from the executive. It was not consultative. And then the issue of the technical committee is another issue, because I would have preferred that the technical committee is formulated by a legal framework through an act of parliament, and that gives it legitimacy and authority to work independently as the Constitutional Court guided. The committee has, even though the individuals are appointed by the president, but the mandate had to be given to them constitutionally, and they should have been independent. We did not see that in the process. This is what is lacking. And these are the clauses, just about 4 of them that I've mentioned, which are contentious, but they told us that this bill will be non-contentious. And also, we see that the bill has been brought back to Parliament for second reading, not the report, not incorporated with the report from the technical committee, but actually the raw bill as it started, the bill that the Constitutional Court said the process was flawed. So this is worrisome. It is worrisome for me, and it's worrisome for any well-meaning Zambian.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're hosting, geopolitical analyst Aaron Ngambi. Is given his perspective on the state of the nation, and he's also given a perspective on the state of Bill 7, the flawed process that we are being forced that it should become part of our constitution. The gentleman who called from UK, who supported Bill 7, well, he supports the UPND, but this is what we are talking about, intellectual dishonesty. If something is wrong, is wrong. He was saying Bill 7 has some good things. Well, are you going to eat the nshima that has been cooked in the mortuary just because the nshima looks good? You will not question the process. He doesn't want us to question process. Aaron Ngambi, thank you very much. Unless you have last words before we go, thank you for gracing the forum, and thank you for the views that you've given. Maybe let me give you your last words.
Well, thank you for having me, Ambassador. Thank you to our viewers and listeners who've stayed on. And thank you for all those that called in. Unfortunately, I could not remember all the calls that came in, but I think I addressed some of the things that I thought was important. I believe that delimitation, this process of increasing the number of MPs from 156 to 211, is the basis and the beginning of a problem that we can actually counter before it happens. I appeal to the government to release the delimitation report by the Electoral Commission before this bill is passed. If they don't do that, this is the dishonesty that we're talking about. I appeal to the members of parliament to really see what this is all about, especially those in the opposition and the independent members of parliament. This is a bait and switch for you. This is where someone says they'll give you this if you do that. And if you do what they say they'll give you, they can switch up on you. And by the time Bill 7 passes, if the government and the UPND switches up on you after Bill 7 passes, it will only be you to blame and not the Zambian people. And also, I've talked about one of the brother that called in and he's given up hope. I believe in the Zambian people. I'm as optimistic as I can be, and I can predict here and now that Bill 7 will not see the light of day unless the Zambian people do not stand up. But it will not see the light of day. Bill 7 will be defeated. And thank you, Ambassador, for having me.
Thank you very much. Aaron is very optimistic that the bill will not pass through. He hopes that our members of parliament will rise to the occasion. Many are surprised today when they saw a statement from Sande Chanda, who's Kanchibia member of parliament, and he's been a bit distant from the issues of the PF. He's regarded as a renegade. He has no disciplinary case with the PF. He has no issues with the PF, but he attacked the PF, but they never proceeded to punish him or do anything. But he's been deemed, and he has spoken for the UPND, especially on CDF. He became like an ambassador on CDF. But Sande Chanda today says he doesn't support Bill 7. It was such a warm surprise to come from Sande. And this is what Aaron is talking about, that we hope that many MPs can rise to the occasion and love their country more than they love their party. Be patriotic more to the country and the constitution than to President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND. Rise and save our country. This process is flawed, it's unconstitutional, and the intentions are terrible. Like you said, the case of Rwanda is very indicative, where a minority president from a minority tribe superintends over it. Why? He crafted the institutions of the state in a manner that it can be removed, and it scores up to 94%. So is President Hakainde being inspired by such, where you abandon the constitution, you abandon democracy? The caller who said no, let's support President Hakainde Hichilema because the Americans are giving him this $2 billion. The IMF on the eve of elections gave Zambia $1.4 billion. Did it stop the Zambians from making a decision? the overall assessment of President Hakainde Hichilema must stand. Is he promoting democracy? Is he promoting the multi-party character of our country? Is he good? Is he fit for purpose to take our country? Has he united our country to one Zambia, one nation? The answers to all those is no. He's promoted, foreign interest, is things that don't benefit our country, the way our minds are being handled, where we are losing lifetime opportunity to benefit from our mines, especially that copper is selling in excess of $9,000 per ton, and it's going to rise, they've said, in the next 50 years because of the evolution of the battery and this transition of energy to battery, and copper is such a good ingredient. So thank you to my dear brother Aaron, and thank you for the opportunity that you gave us. God bless you. And to our dear viewers and our dear callers, you make this program. Continue to speak about our country. Continue to speak. Don't give up like over when I hear about things in Zambia. That pain, translate it to action. God bless you and see you later.
The dialogue on the constitutional reforms has failed. The Oasis Forum regrets to inform the public that it decided to pull out of the dialogue on the constitution amendment process when it became clear that the government was adamant on its position to continue with an illegality. It is for this reason that on the 29th November 2025, following its sitting, the Oasis Forum wrote to the Republican president on its principled stance on the matter, which later was delivered to the smaller team representing government on the 30th of November 2025. We do not believe that dialogue is tenable when the underlying concerns remain unaddressed. Our concerns were and are as follows. 1, illegality of the process. The current process is in breach of the orders of the Constitutional Court. Therefore, continuing the process based on Bill number 7, which the government insists on, is effectively rubber stamping Bill number 7, whose initiation the Constitutional Court declared a nullity due to a lack of mandatory broad public consultations in the framing of the proposed amendments. The report and ensuing bill from the wake of the technical committee will in itself be illegal. Number 2, lack of legal framework and independence. The work of the technical committee lacks a legal framework to ensure its independence and public accountability, risking undue executive influence over what should be a citizen-driven process. Number 3, restrictive terms of reference. The terms of reference unilaterally prescribed by the government restrict citizens' submissions to the same clauses in Bill number 7, effectively resurrecting an illegality, election-centered agenda, and precluding a holistic reform. Failure to withdraw Bill number 7. Despite the Constitutional Court nullifying the initiation of Bill number 7 of 2025, the bill remains before the National Assembly, further entrenching an illegitimacy process. Tying to the 2026 electoral timelines. Rushing the reform process by tying its timelines to the 2026 general elections compromises inclusivity and national consensus, diverting agents from critical immediate needs like the cost of living, water shortages, and employment. There is no justification in whatsoever why the supreme law of the land must be amended in a rushed manner, less than 30 days, as though there is no tomorrow. Dialogue outcomes. Government intend to proceed. Despite presenting these profound and resolved concerns, our dialogue, including the meeting with the President, has yielded nothing. The government remains bent on proceeding with the current illegal and flawed process and has refused to withdraw Bill number 7 from Parliament formally. We reaffirm our non-negotiable preconditions for any meaningful dialogue. 1. Bill number 7 must be formally withdrawn from Parliament. 2. A fresh constitutional reforms process must be commenced, supported by legal safeguards, and be genuinely inclusive, not rushed, and holistic. Should this be attended to by government, we remain available to return to the dialogue table. Now a call to action for all Zambians. The refusal by government to heed advice on withdrawing the illegal Bill number 7 or offering alternative legally sound options is a serious threat to the integrity of the Zambia's foundational law and may result in anarchy. The government's current approach demonstrates an apparent lack of interest in genuine, people-driven dialogue. We therefore call upon all Zambians to stand in defense of constitutionalism, the rule of law, and good governance. We only have one Zambia.